Chapter 2. Frozen Tracks. The Browns' house was on the edge of town, almost at the tree line of the ancient forest that surrounded Silver Creek. The old farmhouse looked tiny under the weight of the snow. Emily's parents were sitting in the kitchen. Mrs. Brown was crying silently. Mr. Brown was staring blankly out the window, watching the snowflakes dance in the streetlight. A half-eaten turkey and a bottle of whiskey sat on the table. Christmas. "We look, Sheriff," Mr. Brown said in a hollow voice. "All the neighbors walk the paths. Nothing. Just, just what?" "The tracks cut off at the start of the old trail to the lake, and then nothing, as if she was lifted into the air." Jack went out onto the porch. The snow was still falling, but not as heavily. He switched on his flashlight and aimed the beam at the ground. Indeed, a chain of small boot tracks led from the door across the yard, past the old barn, and abruptly ended at the edge of the field. There were no signs of a struggle, no large footprints, no indentations from a heavy object. Nothing. Absolutely clean, untouched snow. Jack whistled softly. Even if someone was carrying her, they would have left tracks. He followed the trail that led towards the frozen lake. The forest around him was ancient and hostile. The fir trees stood like dark sentinels, their branches creaking under the pressure of the frost. He remembered Martha's story about the lights. The locals said Silver Creek Lake was cursed. Many years ago, before the white settlers came, the Native Americans buried their shamans here, and on the coldest nights of the year, the spirits came to collect their due. Jack shook his head. A Chicago detective investigating a ghost story. Perfect. He reached the shore of the lake. The ice was smooth, black as a raven's wing. His flashlight beam caught something red out of the darkness. It was a mitten. Emily's red wool mitten. It lay right in the middle of the lake. Not a single footprint in the ice around it, as if it had been dropped from the sky. Jack stepped carefully onto the ice. It was thick and solid. He walked 20 feet to the mitten and picked it up. It was cold, damp with snow, but completely intact. He shone his flashlight forward across the lake. In the darkness, through the falling snow, he saw them. 3 lights, bright, pulsating blue lights, hanging in the air about a mile from him, just above the surface of the ice. They didn't move. They just glowed, like 3 evil Christmas ornaments. Jack felt a chill penetrate his coat, but it wasn't the frost. It was fear. Charcuterie Chapter 3, Old Secrets and New Dead. Returning to town, Jack stopped by Martha's diner. The town was asleep. Only her place was open, a beacon in a raging storm. "You saw them, didn't you?" Martha placed a hot coffee in front of him. Jack nodded and put the red mitten on the counter. "The tracks cut off. The mitten is in the middle of the lake. And the lights. What is it, Martha? Tell me the truth. I'm tired of your local tales." Martha sighed and sat opposite him. 300 years ago, there was a Native American tribe here. They worshiped the spirit of winter. They made sacrifices to him so he wouldn't freeze them all to death. When the white men came, they chopped down the forest, built mines. They laughed at the legends. And then, in 1958, on Christmas Eve, a whole family disappeared. A miner's family. They were never found. Same story. Tracks cut off and blue lights glowing over the lake. Mumbo jumbo. I need facts, Martha. Someone in this town is using old legends to cover their tracks. You don't understand, Jack. It's not a person. It's a place. Jack spent the next day in the archives, stored in the basement of the town hall. The smell of mold and old paper was unbearable. He searched for all mentions of disappearances around Silver Creek Lake. He found more than he expected. Not just the family in 1958. There were other cases, 1974, 1988. Always in late December, always by the lake, always inexplicably ending tracks. He found names. The victims varied, from an old hermit to a school teacher. They had one thing in common. They were all outsiders, or those trying to leave town, or those who were too curious. And then he stumbled upon something different, a sheriff's report from 1988. The sheriff, a certain Roberts, wrote about a cult, a group of people gathering by the lake and performing strange rituals trying to appease the spirit. Sheriff Roberts disappeared a week after writing that report. So it wasn't just about spirits, it was about people who believed in the spirits enough to kill. He returned to his office and saw his partner. He was pale as a ghost. "Jack, a letter for you." A thick black envelope lay on the desk. Inside was a postcard, "Merry Christmas." On the back, handwritten, it read, "The Spirit chooses those who see the lights." Chapter 4. The Cult. Jack knew he couldn't delay. Emily was still out there somewhere, possibly alive. He returned to the Browns' house and interrogated them again. He pressured them, told them about the old disappearances, about the cult. Mr. Brown broke first. "Okay, yes, I know," he shouted, his face contorted with terror. "We all know. We keep the peace. We leave offerings by the lake. Fruit, meat, so it doesn't touch our children. We live by the rules here, Jack." "What rules?" "Every few years, the spirit comes. It chooses an outsider, or someone who disturbs the peace. We just keep silent. That's the price for living in peace." Jack felt disgust. An entire town living in medieval fear, offering human sacrifices to a mythical creature. "Where do they meet? Where's the cult?" Mrs. Brown pointed a trembling finger at the old church on the hill, which everyone thought was abandoned. Jack drove to the church. The blizzard had escalated into a storm. The wind howled like a wild animal. He armed himself and cautiously entered the church. It was dark and cold inside. Suddenly, a light came on in the basement. Voices. They were singing a monotonous song in an ancient Native American dialect. Jack went down the stairs. In the basement, lit by candles, people were standing. Martha from the diner, the mayor, the doctor, almost everyone in Silver Creek. In the center of the circle on the altar lay Emily Brown. She was unconscious but alive. The same blue lights were dancing around her. They didn't come from the candles. They emanated from the air itself. "Sheriff Reed," the mayor exclaimed, his face contorted with fanaticism. "You came. The spirit chose you as a witness." "You're insane," Jack growled, pulling out his pistol. "This is murder. Stop this now. We maintain the balance. The spirit is hungry on the longest night." The blue lights began to pulse faster. The temperature in the room dropped even further. Jack's breath turned to ice instantly. The lights began to take shape. It was something huge, vague, with eyes glowing like embers. Jack shot the mayor. He fell, but the blue lights did not fade. They grew brighter. The creature roared. Jack grabbed Emily and sprinted upstairs. He knew he couldn't stop this with force of arms. He had to disrupt the ritual. He saw an old Bible on the lectern. He grabbed it and hurled it at the glowing creature in the basement. The book hit the light. There was a deafening explosion. The blue lights shattered like shards of ice. The church shook. Chapter 5. Christmas Morning. Jack woke up in the snow, clutching Emily. She was cold but alive. The church was destroyed. The basement had collapsed. The residents of Silver Creek were nowhere to be seen. When Christmas morning arrived, the snow stopped. The bright sun came out. Ambulances and police from the next county arrived in the town. They found Jack and Emily. But when Jack told his story, no one believed him. The residents of Silver Creek had vanished without a trace. Everyone, from Martha to the mayor, as if they had never existed. Jack resigned from the police force. Emily was taken in by relatives. Silver Creek Lake remained as quiet and frozen as ever. Jack left town. He was no longer a skeptic. He knew that during Christmas time in remote American towns, something could be hiding that defied rational explanation. Sometimes when he looked at his old blinking garland, he saw one of the bulbs flash blue for a second, and he knew the spirit of the deep was still waiting for its moment.